Hi folks, David here, and welcome to another exciting video all about famous trials. What I want to do today, just for a few minutes, is take you through the course outline. The course outline that I've asked you to download off of the Moodle site so you could have it in front of you as I go through key points. And we'll just take a few minutes today and walk you through some of the nature of the course. Of course, as you know, everything is being done online here at CBU. All of these courses will be available, offered through the Moodle site. And so get used to the Moodle site, navigate the Moodle site. And all of my courses this term will be done asynchronously, in that you're not going to be online at the same time I am right now as I'm pulling together this material for you. I've opted for the asynchronous delivery. It's a lot easier for you folks. We've got people in this course all across different time zones, all over different parts of the world. And it would be very difficult to have everybody online at the same time. Also, I'm really concerned about the high-speed internet capability of everybody. Of course, I've got all the latest equipment, but you folks may not necessarily have the same stuff. So I'm concerned about the power of internet connections. So I don't want to get into a lot of complicated computer stuff that may simply break down on people. So I've opted for simplicity, and that is asynchronous simplicity. So take a look at the outline. There's an awful lot here, but I'll just highlight some of the key points and some of the key differences here. You'll note, for those of you who've taken my courses before, you'll note there are some differences in this course. There's going to be no term test, no term test here. I would find it very difficult to oversee an online term test. So what I've opted for participation grades is 5 short personal reflective essays. Think of it more as a letter, 5 letters from you to me, talking about different issues in the course. I'll come out later on the first week of the course. I'll have another video specifically on the participation assignments, what I call the a letter to the prof. You'll be writing me different times during the term. You'll be writing me 5 separate 2 to 3 page letters. I'll have much more to say about that in a separate video. So again, there'll be no term test. The participation mark and what would have been the term test mark will be part of the participation letters to the prof. You'll be doing a fair bit of writing in the course. There'll be a traditional essay, and I'll have handouts on that in future weeks. And again, a traditional exam, but the exam will be a take-home exam, a do-at-home exam that you'll then send back to me. And that'll be a traditional exam, a bit more like a couple of short essays that you'll be doing for me, covering different aspects of the course material. So a fair bit of reading, a fair bit of writing, and of course, a fair bit of reading that you'll be expected to be doing over the course. So take a look, it's all written up here. And so take a look at all of that. You'll see the course aims for the course, learning objectives for the course, everything you'll be doing. On page 4, take a look at the course texts. And it's always, you're always happy to know that you don't have to buy any particular books for this course. There are 2 wonderful websites that you see mentioned. One by Douglas O. Linder, the other, the Famous Trials in World History online site. These are American websites that provide information and materials on hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of cases, American, Canadian, international. So almost everything you need for the course to be reading and to be following along in the course are these materials, the materials from these two websites. So just get used to accessing those sites. I'll also be providing through the course outline, I'll be providing information about some of the Canadian sites and their Canadian websites that you'll be getting, you could get into to look up some of the Canadian cases. For the, so again, you don't have to purchase anything for the course, but you do have to do a lot of reading, and I'm expecting people to be following along with the readings that are listed on the course text, the course outline. For course requirements, class participation will be worth 25% of the grade. The investigative research paper will be worth 40%, and the final exam 35%. Again, no test. And so be aware the essay is big, and I'm expecting a lot, and the final exam is 35%. The class participation, 25%, that's based on 5 reflective essays, letters to me that are each worth 5%. There's a commentary on plagiarism when it comes to doing writing, written assignments. Take a look at that. I'll have more outlines and stuff to say about plagiarism as we get into the course. So page 5, you get into the actual meat of the course. For those of you who've taken my courses before, you'll see the similarity in the outlines. Week is listed by weeks and dates. So week 1, the introduction, there'll be a PowerPoint presentation on 9/11. 9/11, the Al Qaeda attacks of 9/11, ISIS. What do we do? What do we do? What was happening? What should we have been doing regarding 9/11? Terrible attacks, issues of injustice. What is the appropriate legal, political response to something like 9/11? We'll go through some of that material. Week 2, we'll take a look at basic theoretical issues regarding trials and the purposes of courts and trials and the court structure, the role of the prosecution, the role of the defense, the role of a judge, the role of a judge and jury. Week 3, we begin to get into the trials. We start historically with some of the great classic judicial travesties of the past. We take a look at the trial of Christ, the trial of Joan of Arc, the trial of Galileo. It's interesting. When we come to look at the trial of Christ, I am looking at it purely from a purely legal, sociological viewpoint. I'm not getting into any religious interpretation. That's up to you, whether you want to have a religious interpretation or not. What I always find interesting is that within the Bible, the story of Easter, the story of the trial and execution of Christ, we have a lovely portrayal of what a Roman trial was like. So that's why I'm asking you to read these Bible passages to get a sense of what it would be like to be tried in a Roman court of law. And basically, spoiler alert, you would never, ever, ever want to be tried in a Roman court of law. And we'll see why. Week 4, we move on to England in the first 50 years of the 1600s. Take a look at 2 cases. Most people have never ever heard of these cases, but they are important in the development of English common law that we've inherited. We take a look at the Walter Raleigh trial of 1603 and the John Lilburne trial of 1649, and what a revolutionary turnaround happens in the English legal system between 1603 and 1649, and we'll take a look at that. pivotal time in English history. Week 5, we finally move right up to date, more or less, the last 40, 50 years. Week 5, October 5th, we take a look at the, again, miscarriages of justice by looking at the Donald Marshall case, famous or infamous case here in Nova Scotia, here in Cape Breton, back in 1971, the wrongful conviction of Donald Marshall. And we'll take a look at what went wrong in that case. Week 6, we take a look at some more Canadian cases, looking at the attainment of justice and the conviction of the guilty. What do we do with people who are truly guilty? Rehabilitation or punishment. We'll take a look at the McDonald's murders, again, happening here in Cape Breton. It's interesting how many Cape Breton cases we get. The the McDonald's murders, notorious murders here at a McDonald's restaurant here in Sydney in 1982. And we take a look at the Paul Bernardo sexual assault and murder cases from southern Toronto, St. Catharines in the early and mid 1990s, the notorious Canadian cases. Week 7, October 19th, we'll take a look at problematics of justice, the issue of extenuating circumstances, cases where you know that somebody is guilty, they actually confess, yes, I did it, but I had a reason. The Robert Latimer trial, terrible case. A father who admits to killing his disabled 10-year-old daughter to put her out of her misery. That divides people. You'll be divided when you hear the facts of that case. And the Jamie Bulger case, an English case from the early 1990s, the murder of a 2-year-old boy, Jamie Bulger. But what do you do when the two murderers who are confess the two murderers are two 10-year-old boys? What do you do when you've got horrendous murder committed by two 10-year-old boys, where basically the defense is that my client is a stupid 10-year-old boy who didn't really know what he was doing. So there's that. Week 8, we deal with, again, another Nova Scotia case that was really a trial that never was. The horrible situation that young teenage girl, Rehtaeh Parsons, facing sexual assault and cyberbullying, and she never got her day in court because she committed suicide. And we'll take a look at that case and what lessons, if any, we have learned, and we should learn from a case like that. Week 9, now we're into November 2nd, week 9. We turn to international issues, military justice, law at war crimes issues. So week 9, we take a look at the Breaker Morant trial, a case coming out of the Boer War, 1901, 1902, fought in South Africa, but we're looking at Australian soldiers charged with committing war crimes against Boer prisoners of war. And then a related sister case to that is the William Calley My Lai case, coming out of Vietnam and the My Lai massacre. Week 10 is actually reading week, the November 11th holiday, the Remembrance Day week. So CBU was shut down. We'll all be shut down. You'll have the week off, but by that time you'll be working on your essays. And we come back on our official week 10 will be November 16th, and we continue with international law and military justice. And we'll spend pretty much a couple of weeks on the Nuremberg war crimes trial, arguably the trial of the 20th century, happening in Germany, in Nuremberg, in the fall and winter of 1945, 1946, when the victorious Allied nations at the end of the Second World War put the Nazi regime on trial, and the surviving senior leaders of the Nazi government, and what a story that is. Week 11, we'll carry on week 11, November 23rd on Nuremberg. The week and a half of the course, we'll move on to civil law and the environmental issues, environmental justice. A case coming out of Boston, Massachusetts, in the again early 1990s. So that's the course. That's where we're going. A lot of cases, a lot of reading, a lot of discussion, a lot of stuff to think about. And I bet you'll be challenged in many cases. And I'll just leave you with this one final thought here. Nothing in this course is fiction. Everything is real. Everything we look at really, truly happened. And much of what we'll get into is some awful, disgusting, horrible stuff that people do to other people. Some of it will be hard to think about, hard to listen to, hard to comprehend. But we have to, because this is the stuff that famous trials are made of. And this is the stuff that judges and lawyers have to deal with. How do we try to make sense of how do we make sense of the insensible? And how do we bring justice to a situation that's been filled with injustice and ugly, horrible things? So get used to it. That we'll deal with some very, very challenging stuff, but stuff that will make people think, and stuff that where outcomes where we will not all agree on what the outcomes are. And I'll be pushing people through the PowerPoint slides to be thinking about all the different ways to think about some of these issues. Now, as we go through the week by week, I'll be providing copious amounts of PowerPoint slides. I've got materials on all of these cases, and I'll be doing voiceovers on those PowerPoint slides. So get used to week by week, come into the course, come into the Moodle site. It becomes your classroom, and I'll have PowerPoint videos, PowerPoint presentations for you to listen to, and I'll be posing all sorts of questions. And if you do have questions about stuff, you can then just email me, post questions on the Moodle site, and I'll be keeping office hours. I'll be doing 5+ hours a week, simply answering email questions and putting other materials online and interacting with you that way. So that's the course. That's the course outline. Take a look at that again, and I will see you next time when I will be talking about the participation assignment. Okay, you guys take care. Take it easy. Checking out.